Things that make avoidance stay in the relationship. When it comes to avoidance, everyone assumes the same thing. They always run. They always pull back. They always choose distance over closeness. But here's the surprising truth that almost no one talks about. Avoidants do stay in relationships. And when they do, there's a hidden emotional logic behind it that most people completely miss. They aren't staying because they suddenly became secure. They aren't staying because they woke up one day ready to fix everything. They stay because something in the relationship touches a deeper, quieter part of their emotional world that even they don't fully understand. And once you understand what keeps an avoidant in, everything about their behavior makes more sense. The first thing that makes an avoidant stay is emotional safety, not the loud, dramatic kind, but the subtle kind where they feel accepted for who they are without pressure. Avoidants aren't scared of love. They're scared of losing themselves in love. So when they meet someone who doesn't demand constant validation, constant reassurance, or constant emotional performance, something inside them relaxes. They stay because they don't feel judged for their slower pace. They stay because you're not asking them to become someone else. And even though they'll never admit it, they crave that kind of acceptance more deeply than most people realize. Another powerful reason avoidants stay is the presence of a calm, emotional atmosphere. Avoidants are sensitive to intensity, not because they don't care, but because conflict or emotional demands trigger their oldest wounds, usually childhood memories of being smothered, overwhelmed, or expected to carry emotional weight they weren't ready for. So when a relationship feels peaceful, when the emotional tone is steady, they feel grounded. It helps them feel that closeness doesn't always lead to chaos, that love doesn't have to mean losing control. They stay where their nervous system doesn't feel constantly under attack. Avoidants also stay when they feel respected. This is one of the most underrated aspects of avoidant psychology. They don't say it out loud, but autonomy is their love language. When someone respects their need for space, not as rejection, not as punishment, but as a natural rhythm, they form an attachment that actually makes them come closer. Respecting their space isn't giving them permission to disconnect. It's showing them you understand the way they operate. And because avoidants are rarely understood, that understanding becomes a bond they don't want to lose. Another surprising thing that keeps avoidance in relationships is consistency. You may think avoidants want unpredictability. You may think they want a partner who matches their emotional distance. But the truth is, avoidants stay when someone is consistent in a non-invasive way. Every time they step back and return, and you're still yourself, not angry, not chasing, not punishing them, it teaches their nervous system something they never experienced growing up. That closeness doesn't have to lead to danger. They stay because your steadiness feels safer than their avoidance patterns. They stay because you're predictable in a world that often feels emotionally chaotic to them. Avoidants also stay when they feel emotionally desired without being emotionally demanded. And yes, there's a difference. Being desired means they feel wanted, appreciated, admired. Being demanded means they feel cornered, interrogated, or expected to deliver emotional depth on command. When someone can make them feel chosen but not suffocated, it hits a very specific sweet spot in their psychology. They stay because they feel valued without feeling trapped. They stay because their fear of losing independence isn't activated. Another deep reason avoidants stay is because the partner has a strong sense of self. Avoidants are actually attracted to people who are emotionally grounded, self-sufficient, and confident. Not because they want someone who doesn't need them, but because they don't want to feel responsible for someone's emotional survival. When they see you taking care of yourself, having your own identity, your own hobbies, your own social life, it becomes easier for them to stay. It reassures them that being in a relationship doesn't mean becoming someone's entire world. They stay because they can breathe next to you. Avoidants stay when they feel appreciated for their efforts, no matter how small. This is something most partners forget, because avoidants give in subtle ways, quiet gestures, practical help, quality time that isn't overly emotional. They often feel invisible in relationships. When someone sees their effort, even if it's imperfect or minimal, they feel emotionally connected in a way they rarely do. They stay when their attempts at closeness are noticed instead of criticized. They stay because appreciation melts their defensiveness. One of the biggest things that makes avoidance stay is curiosity. Avoidants leave when the relationship feels predictable and emotionally demanding, but they stay when they feel mentally and emotionally intrigued by their partner. When the other person has depth, nuance, passions, perspectives, and originality, the avoidant feels alive in the connection. They don't like codependence, but they love intellectual stimulation. They stay because the relationship keeps unfolding. They stay because your inner world is interesting enough to pull them out of their emotional shell. Avoidants also stay when the emotional pace matches their capacity. Secure people can handle closeness at a normal speed. Anxious people want closeness at a fast speed. Avoidance needs slow, steady progression. When a relationship develops gradually, when intimacy builds in layers instead of leaps, they feel more comfortable. They stay because the speed feels natural to them, not forced. They stay because slow intimacy doesn't scare them, it soothes them. Another subtle but powerful reason avoidants stay is emotional reliability. Avoidants do not trust easily. But when someone consistently follows through on plans, on promises, on communication, it creates a sense of safety that even the avoidant doesn't fully recognize. They don't need emotional theatrics. They don't need intense romantic gestures. They need reliability. They stay where they can predict emotional outcomes. They stay where they don't feel emotionally ambushed. Avoidants stay when the partner doesn't weaponize closeness. When affection is given freely, not as a reward and not as a manipulation, they learn that love doesn't have to be transactional. Many avoidants grew up with conditional affection. They were loved when they behaved, when they achieved, when they suppressed emotions. So when someone loves them without conditions, it reprograms their emotional expectations. They stay because unconditional warmth is a rare experience for them. They also stay when the partner honors boundaries, and not just theirs, but their own too. Avoidants respect people who know who they are, people who can say no with confidence, people who have limits. This makes the avoidant feel safe because it signals emotional maturity, not dependency. They stay because boundaries create clarity. They stay because boundaries eliminate chaos. And perhaps the deepest reason avoidants stay is this: the relationship helps them heal without demanding that they heal on command. When someone's presence is steady enough, accepting enough, and strong enough, the avoidant begins to feel things they normally run from. They may not say it, they may not show it, but they feel it. They stay when the relationship expands their emotional capacity instead of threatening it. They stay because something inside them begins to soften. And even though avoidants are terrified of vulnerability, they are not immune to love, especially when it comes wrapped in patience, understanding, and strength. So yes, avoidants run. They pull back. They retreat into their emotional caves. But when the relationship touches something real, something safe, something calm inside them, they stay. Not because they're suddenly secure, but because the connection feels different from anything they've known. They stay because love feels possible instead of dangerous. And the moment you understand why avoidants stay, you stop taking their distance personally. You start seeing their behavior not as rejection, but as protection. And you realize that sometimes the very thing that makes an avoidant stay isn't your effort. It's your energy, your stability, your presence, your consistency. And the quiet truth is, avoidants don't stay where they are chased. They stay where they feel safe.